Hi kitties! I'm Ayaniko. This is my first Let's Build, so it's not gonna be perfect obviously, but I hope you'll still like it because it took me a lot of time, like a lot. So as always, I'm starting to do big boxes, like kinda L-shaped, and then putting smaller boxes on top to leave place for the roof. For this one, I wanted to do a kind of small village because I don't know, I felt like for retirement houses, it would be more convenient to have elders, like kind of roommates living with each other, if that makes sense. So at this point on the video, I have like the basic shell outline, which is just weirdly shaped box, I'm gonna admit on this one. And I try to go out of my comfort zone as well because I'm not used to doing diagonal walls. It is kinda hard. One thing that's making it easier is that once I've done the basic outline, it's really easier to just go with this tool and close the rooms so that they'll be easier to move around the grid. So now I need to confess something. I hate foundations. Like, this is why most of my house are floating houses. I just paste the boxes on top of each other so that the first level will not have any build or any foundation. This kinda allows me to get a bit crazy with landscaping, like putting rocks and everything because it won't clip with the foundation. And also I feel like the foundations are usually darker or don't really fit with the style of the houses. But like, this is a personal opinion, obviously. I know a pretty popular opinion though. Roofing is hard. Like, I couldn't get it right for this one because I wanted to do barn houses because I had references of puzzle houses. I don't know if you see what I mean by that, but these, for example. I had to cut this part because it was way too long, and even though it might be funny to see me struggle with roofs, this isn't even the final form. I tried to put small roofs on the top of the highest parts of the build and have side parts to get that feel of really big roofs that cover and almost hide the whole house. But sadly, I didn't succeed. These kind of houses are still on my to-do list though because they're really cute even though I find it hard to make thatched room look good in The Sims. I've used them a lot for island living builds, but on other worlds they feel a bit misplaced or weird sometimes. Or maybe that's just me. Anyway, after this painful roofing attempt, I started to go with a bit more traditional approach with diagonal parts on the roof, because as I already stated, I suck at roofs and diagonal roofs. So I had to change the upper room shape to make it pop a bit more and help me figure out where I'll put my windows. I just couldn't manage to make it look good and had a really hard time making the normal and diagonal roof connect.
Moments later.
After a lot more struggle, I thought I was done with the roofs and it just looked odd to me.
More moments later.
I then changed rounded roof with triangle ones and changed the color to the red tin roof that came out with Eco Lifestyle because I just really liked how vibrant it looked, and I also chose a white base game paneling to kind of counter the super colorful roofs. Next step was putting columns all around the houses. For this, I chose the blue wooden columns from Cats and Dogs, cause when I started this build, I wanted it to be base game as much as possible, and as I was building in Brindleton Bay, I figured I should use as much as possible the build catalog of this pack. I didn't especially wanted to use Eco Lifestyle, but there was no other swatch red like this one.
Much later.
I really wanted to use the Cats and Dogs windows, but for some reason I was not happy with the build, so I just kept trying different windows types to get to this part. As you can see, most of them are just being placed at the center of each room portion. I also forgot to mention, but I did add blue base game trim and eaves to match the blue columns. I knew what I wanted to do when I found these open wood windows, still from Cats and Dogs. The small squared ones were fitting the tower perfectly, and the bigger arch ones were perfect for the part of the houses that were sticking out. I was not sure what to do for the parts where the doors were supposed to be, and as I was searching for ideas for the windows and door placement, I found this base game mesh window. I felt like they were almost assorted to the fence wood part of the other windows, and that would make a great way to adorn the walls like a bit more. Of course, I tried to put it on the top of the door to make a custom door with an arch. It was kinda cute, but not really fitting. I tried a few more things before sitting back, taking an overall look of the build, and then I snapped with the roofs again. I don't know why I feel like I'm never done with the roofs, ever. I actually showed the build to my boyfriend to get a new view of it, and he basically said, "What is wrong with the roofs?" So after this, I decided to redo all the round parts into triangles once again. It did require me to change the upstairs rooms to get a better shape. I'm kinda sad I couldn't make it look like the references I had, cause I felt like they really represented a Spark challenge. I had trouble finding what I wanted to do for Golden Age, and I was way more inspired by the waiting team, but it wouldn't be a challenge if it was easy. I knew I wanted to build in Brindleton Bay, so the idea of a seaside retirement village hit me when I was building. Then I thought, wouldn't it be so cute to have an elder in a rocking chair with a fluff kitty on their laps? And this is how I decided to make it pet dedicated. I might be wrong, but I think there is a way to get roommates since Discover University came out, so it can really be used as retirement homes. Otherwise, this is a mod I'm using, sorry. So, speaking of Discover University, I've made a choice that might seem weird at first, but hear me out. In this build, the three smaller houses each have at least one bedroom, bathroom, and living room. In those living rooms, I decided to include a fridge and counter, but the only stove is located in the common living room in the highest house. Just as stoves aren't allowed in dorms, I felt like it would be safer for elders. So, when I noticed I forgot about the windows on the back of the build, I stumbled on this pretty cute base game shuttered one that had actually a good blue swatch. A few moments later, I found this peculiar flower-shaped window, and when I saw it had a blue swatch, I definitely adopted it. I also decided to add another room to the top of the highest house because it was just visually pleasing to me. I had to mess up a bit more with the roofs, but I promise this time this is the last one. I moved on to the doors, being pretty satisfied with the state of the build, and went ahead to do the actual entrances for every terrace and house. I kept them simple by making 3 tiles for the bigger houses and 2 tiles and 1 tile for the other. I also added small awnings as the wall section next to the door was still too empty for me. Once that was done, I finally started the landscape. I started by elevating the terrain to the same height as each house and smoothed the heck out of it. It was very tricky. This is my second build with terrain tools. Terrain? Do you say terrain? Sorry for my poor accent there. They are just something I do not know how to say properly. And yeah, if you used terrain tools before, you know they're a bit difficult to handle at times. But for this one, I really wanted to have a usable path and garden so that the pets could roam free. Smoothing the terrain is really satisfying to watch, right? I might have overdone it a bit, but it's okay cause I was planning on putting rocks and plants, so it was really important that I still had a bit of room under each house so that rocks, especially, wouldn't show up on the first floor. The reason I don't often use terrain tool is that I find it weird to have such a clear dividing line between the build and the world, and I can rarely pull it off. Another thing annoying about this is the dirt terrain paint. Why? You can't get rid of it, and most plants float in slopes, so it is hard to hide sometimes. At this point, the terrain was ready for stair placements. Unfortunately, I forgot we could not make diagonal stairs, so I had to make that work somehow. I settled for double stairs for each house, and Once that was done, I started adding plants and rocks. I started by putting birch trees. I just love these. They're bright, their foliage is well balanced, and they're really helpful to delimit the area. If you're wondering why is this one in particular floating, it's not because it's an alien tree, it's because I plan on having rocks under it. For the next step, I wanted to make the tail and slope look more natural, so I added rocks under every house to make it look like the houses are built on some kind of cliff. To make this easier, I limited myself to 4 rock types I found on the debug catalog with the cat and dog filter. There is 2 rather big ones, with a flat and a leaning one, which make the base of the cliff, and 2 smaller ones with pointy and long shapes to fill the gaps. If you're struggling with landscaping, try keeping 3 to 6 rock types to not be overwhelmed. One thing that could really help as well is taking a moment to really observe what you're building. Using the same trees, plants, and rocks than the world you're in makes your build really look like it's part of the world, and Debug has a lot of nice options for this. When placing the rocks and plants, this might be the only moment where my brain is in pause mode. I really cannot explain how I do this because it is mostly a trial and error process. Changing the sizes of the rocks helps a lot as well. Generally speaking, rocks will get smaller and smaller the more they're far from the cliff top. And the size variation and rotation variation also helps to hide the fact that these are mostly the same stone. The back cliff was tricky to do because I had to worry about hiding the dirt turn paint, not having a rock clip through the floor, and most importantly, keeping all those huge stones inside the actual lot, otherwise it would disappear when placed. I then had plants where I feel like there's a rock missing, but where I think it should be natural for them to grow, like on the top of big rocks. I usually start with these ground vines because they're available for almost every pack and they cover a lot of ground. Plus, they can also be placed on top of rocks to give a natural overground feel to the cliff. To get a better result, I mixed it with a more bushy plant that you can also find in the background. To me, there was not enough trees, so I added maple trees, I really like the swatches they have, but they were a bit more tricky to place, their foliage being more dense than birch trees. I mostly place them behind houses because I like having a tree line that delimits the build from the rest of the world. And if I'm being honest, they're also huge, so they were hard to place in front of the houses anyway. Now, I love this plant, but I do not use cats and dogs that often when building, so it was the opportunity for me to go all out with it. And I did. This build is supposed to be a retirement village, so I wanted to add fences, and I found nice ones in cats and dog depot. I was so happy to find this nautical one. It fitted the color scheme and theme perfectly. I continued to add plants and flowers all over because I love landscaping so much I can only stop when there's no room for it anymore. Well, there's also the fact that the terrain has a steep slope, so most of the bushes almost float when the camera is down, so I had to add smaller bushes and flowers to hide the slope. Once again, mixing up the sizes is key to a natural look. As I said, I do not know when to stop, so I added higher plants for the contrast and hydrangea for a little pop of color assorted to the fences and everything. This also helped me further to hide the other floating bushes and or lack of rocks. Even after that, I felt like it was not done and I wanted to add even more colors, so I added pink flowers. I added those other flowers because they're super colorful as well and they make the landscaping more lush. They really were super helpful to hide the fact that the fences are floating. I went back on the upper rooms because I was still not satisfied with the window I had here, and I replaced them with a rounded arch to which I attached blue wooden decor to make it look like there were beams. I had to destroy the wall because this object is a wall decor and I wanted to be able to replace it. Last part of the build is stirring paint. This part went smoother than expected. I took a bit of time finding the patch that matched and made a winding path to connect the houses and the yard entrance and exit. I was thinking of having a stone path with dirt under, but I ended up liking the stone alone much more, so I erased the dirt and reapplied the stone. I'm kinda proud that I managed to use only 5 DLCs for a build of this size. If you want more info on the build, it is worth 348k and needs at least a 40 by 40 lot. For packs I used Eco Lifestyle, Cats and Dogs, Get Together, Parenthood, Nifty Knitting, and Movie Hangout. This is the finished exterior. This was my take on the Golden Age Spark Challenge, and it is meant to be a retirement village for elders to enjoy with their lifelong companions, pets. This video is already pretty long, so I didn't show any interior footage, but if you're intrigued, say it in the comment, and I'll definitely make a shorter video focused on the furnishing. If you like the build, please save it on the gallery. My ID is Ayaneko6 and there's a link down below if you want to check out my other builds. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I hope you've enjoyed this speed build. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more. See you next time! Bye!